Before the Clone Wars, before the Sith hid behind senators and masks, there was the Great Hyperspace War, 5,000 years before the fall of the Republic and the fall of Anakin Skywalker. For the first time, the Jedi faced an organized Sith Empire, not as hunters or as mystics, but as soldiers. Naga Sadow unleashed armies that reshaped worlds. The Jedi, who had trained for meditation and balance, now stood knee-deep in fire and in ash. Lightsaber forms that thrived in temples meant little on the war-torn ground. Victory no longer came from speed or from strength, but from understanding the terrain itself, from evolution. From this crucible, a brand new discipline emerged, a hidden form, not a numbered form, not a sequence of stances, but a philosophy of control and of awareness. The Jedi of this era called it Sokan. The battle begins the moment that you take your first step. The ground itself can win or lose you the war. Sokan is often mistaken for movement, but it isn't. It's foresight, the ability to read the battlefield the way that a master reads the Force. A Sokan practitioner doesn't just track blades, they track space, elevation, light, terrain, distance, and every path that their opponent must take. It's a discipline of anticipation, chess played in motion, where every shift of footing is another move towards checkmate. Where most duelists think 2 moves ahead, a true Sokan master sees 20. They don't react, they dictate. They decide not only when a fight ends, but where. To control the battlefield is to control the fight, and to control the fight is to decide who wins. Sokan was never counted among the 7 classical forms. It is something else, a variant, a sub-form, a way of seeing rather than of striking. Where the 7 lightsaber combat philosophies train the body, Sokan will train the mind. It is fascinating to me because it seems as if this begins where ordinary mastery would end. It is subtle, it is rare, but for those few who reach it, it's the difference between reacting to the Force and commanding it. But now let us look at examples, and here we will get a better idea of just how far Sokan can elevate a duelist, bringing them from elite to legendary. While it is true that the Jedi were the inventors of Sokan, the Sith often adopt what the Jedi prove is worthy, and there was no Sith Lord that thought that he was more worthy to use Sokan than Darth Maul. Maul was not just a creature of rage, he was a true tactician. During his first duel with Qui-Gon Jinn on Tatooine, Maul expected the Sands to unbalance the Jedi Master, to betray him because he was older. Instead though, Qui-Gon's footing remained perfect, calm, measured, unbroken, and Maul took note. When they met again on Naboo, Maul adjusted. He lured Qui-Gon and Kenobi into the plasma refinery, a labyrinth of narrow walkways and lethal drops. It was an arena designed for him, and against Qui-Gon Jinn's Ataru, it was a death trap. Ataru thrived in the open space, but every laser gate, every platform, every turn, all of this was Sokan in motion. Maul isolated the Master, denied him space, and made the environment his ally. Qui-Gon fell not to strength, but to strategy. Maul did not overpower the Jedi, he cornered him. Had Maul not been broken and consumed by madness, he could have become one of the greatest duelists to ever live, a practitioner who merged the fury of Form 7 with the foresight of Sokan. If Maul weaponized this through aggression though, Yoda mastered it through understanding. To the untrained eye, Yoda's lightsaber duels look like chaos, a blur of leaps and of motion. But every movement is deliberate. Every bounce, every spin, every redirection is calculated control. On Geonosis, Yoda turns Dooku's hangar into a living trap. Walls, pillars, machinery, they all become a part of his form. Dooku's elegant Form 2 Makashi cannot keep up with the shifting geometry of the duel that Yoda has created. Years later, when Yoda faced Sidious, the same wisdom defies him as well. Sidious attempts to lure Yoda into the tight Senate corridors, a confined space where Ataru's mobility will falter. But Yoda refuses. He drags the duel into the Senate chamber, an arena of open air and vertical freedom. There, Yoda thrives, and he even disarms the Emperor. Where others are trapped by their surroundings, Yoda becomes one with them. Yoda never lets the battlefield define him. He defines the battlefield. And this is what true Sokan mastery looks like in the hands of the Grand Master. Yoda's mastery of Sokan doesn't just make him a master of positioning, it makes him a master of angles. Most lightsaber duelists, no matter how skilled they are, fight along a fairly predictable axis, horizontal movement, footwork, and circular momentum. Even highly trained masters like Dooku or Windu are still tethered to the floor. They can step, pivot, and leap, but their form is built around lines of attack that obey gravity. Their blades move in arcs, their bodies move through patterns, but Yoda's doesn't. Through Ataru, he shatters those limitations, and through Sokan, he turns the entire battle into part of his form. Where others are bound to the ground, Yoda uses it as a springboard. Walls, columns, machinery, and even his opponent's bodies become launching points, because Ataru emphasizes acrobatics, speed, and unpredictability, and because Yoda channels Force Valor, amplifying his strength through speed and agility beyond any natural limit. He fights from unreachable vectors. He's not just fast, he's dimensional. Every leap, twist, and rotation creates an attack vector from above, behind, or even below that his opponent cannot logically track or parry in time. To most duelists, a threat must come from one of 6 primary zones of attack, but Yoda transforms those 6 into dozens. This is where Sokan elevates him beyond Ataru wielders. He doesn't just move unpredictably, he plans his unpredictability. Every ricochet, every leap is calculated to force the opponent into a terrain disadvantage. If the enemy takes a step left, he's already maneuvered so that a wall or a drop-off traps them. If they block high, he's already in motion below their guard. It is a form of truly controlled chaos. And that is why someone like even Dooku, a master of Form 2, a form built around precision and control, is overwhelmed by Yoda. Form 2 thrives on reading rhythm, but Yoda erases all rhythm. Yoda orbits his enemies with seemingly endless blades. That's what makes him really dangerous. In combat, he isn't just simply faster, he's also everywhere. It is Yoda's synthesis of Sokan and Ataru, as well as Force Valor, that allows him to fight not as a single combatant, but as a storm of motion, intelligence, and positioning. I would argue that Yoda is perhaps the greatest master of the ability, but few Jedi embodied Sokan's tactical essence more clearly than Obi-Wan Kenobi. He didn't wield it through acrobatics like Yoda or traps like Maul though. He wielded it with patience. During his duel with Anakin on Mustafar, Obi-Wan read not just his opponent's technique, but also his mind. As the terrain collapsed around them, Obi-Wan maneuvered towards higher elevation, not by luck, but by intent. Obi-Wan understood that Anakin's gem so thrived on momentum and on power, so he denied him both. Kenobi positioned himself where Anakin's leaps would work against him, where gravity itself became a weapon. It wasn't arrogance, it was Sokan. By mastering positioning and foresight, Kenobi defeated a warrior who was stronger, faster, and more powerful than he was. It was a duel won through understanding, not through strength. But let's shift darker again. Sidious studied every duel the Jedi fought. He learned. The calm precision of Sokan fascinated him. But where the Jedi used it to bring balance, the Sith used it to bring dominion. Palpatine wielded Sokan as a philosophy of control, not just on the battlefield but across the galaxy. He didn't outfight the Jedi, he outmaneuvered them. Every senator was a piece, every world a step, every war a reshaped terrain. Through the dark side, Sokan became the art of manipulation itself, a way not to move with the environment, but to bend it until no one else could breathe. And the ultimate expression of that came from his apprentice. Darth Vader does not move through the battlefield. Darth Vader consumes it. Where Yoda flows, Darth Vader crushes. He doesn't adapt to the environment, he remakes it. He collapses ceilings, tears down catwalks, he floods corridors with water, fire, and debris. Inch by inch, he destroys his opponent's footing. Their safety is gone. Vader's Sokan is not elegance, it's inevitability. He strips away every path until only one remains, his. Only one being before him ever showed this same level of complete spatial dominance. And that brings us neatly to Revan, a warrior philosopher who saw the battlefield not as ground, but as a design. Revan mastered Niman, the balanced form of versatility and adaptability, but he also understood Sokan better than perhaps any being before or after. Where others used it to win duels, Revan would use it to win wars. He lured the Mandalorians into Malachor 5, turning a planet into a weapon, a victory born entirely from positioning and anticipation. It wasn't just brilliance, it was Sokan scaled to the size of empires. Revan didn't fight battles, he built them. For him, combat was art. The enemy never realized they were already standing exactly where Revan wanted them. Sokan made him a master of inevitability. Niman made him complete, and together they may have made him the greatest duelist who ever lived. But that is an argument for a different archive. Sokan was never a numbered form. It was the form beyond forms, the point where mastery stops being technique and becomes complete understanding. It isn't about strength, speed, or even the lightsaber. It's about control. Control of space, control of rhythm, control of destiny. Every great warrior rediscovers it. Maul through cunning, Yoda through foresight, Kenobi through patience, Vader through domination, and Revan through design. Because in the end, Sokan isn't just how you fight, it's how you win. And it is one of the rarest variants of lightsaber combat that we know of in the lore. And yet, one of the most important. It is what very well may separate the great from the truly great. But of course, my friends, that's just my read on it. So who do you think mastered Sokan best? Was it Yoda's agility, Kenobi's patience, Vader's dominance, or was it Revan's grand design? Let me know down below. And if you enjoyed diving into the mind behind the blade, make sure you're subscribed. We've got more deep-cut Jedi and Sith philosophy lore on the way. Because remember, in the galaxy, knowing how to fight makes you good, but knowing where to fight, that is what makes you legend. May the Force be with you.